The rain comes soft at first. It whispers on the pavement. Then it hits harder. Little Sophia presses her palms against the shop window. Her face is small and wet. Her hair clings to her forehead. She watches the street like it's the end of the world. Bikers ride past. Grease and leather. Engines growl. Tires spray water. They look fierce. They look dangerous. Sophia's eyes widen. Not with fear. With a strange hope. She pulls at her jacket. It's too thin. Her feet are bare in sandals. She moves like she's practiced this moment. She has practiced it all day. Please, she says into the rain. The word is small. Humble. It floats across the curb. A cluster of bikers slow. Their jackets are black. Patches ripple with every wind gust. One of them, Robert, tilts his head. He sees her. Up close, his face is softer than the rest. A nick on his chin. Eyes that have seen late nights. Hey kid, you okay? Robert calls. His voice is rough but gentle. The others grunt. Engines idle. The rain plays little drums on helmets. Sophia steps forward. Her voice cracks. Arrest me. The words hang in the air. They make no sense at first. Arrest me. For what? For being cold. For being small. For being alone. Emma, one of the bikers, laughs. It's a surprised, short sound. She's joking, right? She asks. Emma's laugh has a warmth to it. She wears a red bandana. Her nails are chipped. Her smile is quick. Sophia shakes her head. Rain splatters her lashes. Please. I can't go home. He says I'm bad. He says I'm nothing. I want someone to take me away. The child speaks like she's quoting a list. Like she learned these lines from a tired book. There's a silence. A real one. The city noise blurs into background. For a moment, everyone forgets the rain. They forget the leather. They forget they are rough men and women on roaring machines. John, older than the rest, steps closer. He has hands calloused from work. He crouches down so he's at Sophia's level. His jacket smells like motor oil and cigarettes. He doesn't smile. He listens. Why do you want that? John asks. He keeps his voice steady. He doesn't sound like someone who picks fights. He sounds like someone who collects lost things. Sophia looks at him like he's the only person who can help. If someone arrests me, I can be somewhere safe. I won't get yelled at. I won't get hit. I won't have to hide. She swallows. Please. Robert glances at the others. There's a flicker of something behind his eyes. Memory. Guilt. A sudden understanding. He remembers a night years ago with his own niece shivering and small. He remembers helplessness. Michael, quiet until now, reaches into his jacket. He pulls out a small, crumpled teddy bear. It's threadbare at the arm. He holds it out like an offering. Sophia's face lights up. For a second, the terrible weight lifts. An older woman from the bakery across the street, Evelyn, watches from under an awning. She wipes a tray with a cloth. Her mouth moves in a small, surprised "oh." She steps out and calls, "You can't just," then she stops. She sees Sophia's eyes. She sees the way the girl trusts strangers more than home. Questions bubble up in the air. Are they supposed to arrest her? Can bikers arrest anyone? Who's the bad man Sophia speaks of? The bikers look at each other like they're reading a map with some pages torn out. John stands and smiles, just a little. All right, he says. We won't arrest you. His tone is careful. But we'll do something better. Sophia blinks. Better. John nods. He glances at the nearest shelter sign. We'll take you to someone who will listen. We'll keep you warm till then. He offers his jacket. It smells of engine oil and peppermint gum. Sophia takes it like a child taking hope. As the bikers prepare to move, a shadow crosses the far end of the street. A man stands in the doorway of a brownstone. He watches them. His hands are in his pockets. His jaw is tight. His eyes, when they meet Sophia's, go cold. Sophia's grip tightens on John's sleeve. Her small voice drops to a whisper. He's coming back. A last drop of rain hits the pavement like a drumbeat. Engines rev. The group freezes. What will happen next? The man in the doorway moves. His stride is long. The air changes. Pause. And that's when everything shifts. The man's boots hit the wet pavement with a heavy, echoing sound. Thud, thud, thud. Sophia's tiny hand grips John's arm so tightly, her knuckles turn white. Her breathing grows sharp, fast, like she's trying to swallow fear before it escapes. Robert's eyes narrow beneath his helmet. He doesn't like the way the man walks, slow, deliberate, like he owns the ground he steps on. The man's coat is long, dark, and soaked through. His face is pale under the streetlight. When he finally speaks, his voice slices through the rain. Sophia. The sound of her name freezes everyone. Even the engines seem to hush. John takes a half step forward. You know this kid? He asks, keeping his tone steady. The man's lips twitch. She's my daughter, he says flatly. And she's coming home. Now. Emma crosses her arms. She doesn't look too happy about that. Sophia shakes her head quickly, tears mixing with rain. Please don't let him take me, she whispers. Please. The bikers exchange glances. No one says it, but the question burns in all their minds. What if she's telling the truth? Robert lowers his kickstand and steps off his bike. Listen, man, he says calmly. The kid's scared. Why don't we call someone to make sure everything's okay? The man laughs, a harsh, ugly sound. You think you can tell me how to raise my own daughter? You filthy. He stops himself but steps closer, pointing a shaking finger at Robert. You don't know anything about us. Sophia flinches and hides behind John. He feels her trembling. Evelyn, the woman from the bakery, comes closer, holding a towel over her head. I've seen her here before, she says softly. Always alone. Always waiting. Sometimes, bruised. Her words hang heavy in the air. Robert's jaw tightens. Emma's hand moves to the small chain hanging from her belt, not as a threat, but a reminder that she's ready if things go bad. Back off, Michael says quietly, stepping beside Robert. You're scaring her. The man sneers. You think a bunch of bikers are gonna play heroes? You'll all regret this. He takes another step, but this time, John steps directly in front of him. John's voice is calm, deep, and solid like stone. You take one more step toward that girl, and I'll make sure someone real shows up to talk about it. For a moment, no one breathes. Rain drips from the awning. A car passes in the distance, splashing through a puddle. The sound seems too far away, too normal for what's unfolding here. The first time Sophia held her son, she expected tears of joy. Instead she felt only weight and quiet. Little fingers curled around her thumb. A soft blanket smelled of lavender and baby powder. Robert, the billionaire, stood nearby, pale and polite. He smiled like rich men do, measured, careful. He's perfect, Robert said, but his voice trembled. Inside him, something else stirred. Fear. Hope tangled together. They named him Michael. His dark hair lay like a soft river on his little head. Sophia pressed her cheek to his and listened. No cry. A nurse checked his ears. All fine, she said. He's strong. The doctors were kind and clinical. Tests. Reassuring words. Still, Sophia felt the quiet like a question. Days slipped into a strange pattern. Michael slept. Michael nursed. Michael watched the world with eyes that never registered color. They said he blinked at light. He tracked movement. But when Sophia hummed lullabies, he did not startle. When Robert spoke gently, Michael did not turn. The doctors used calm terms, delayed responses, sensory issues. They offered solutions and appointments and small, hopeful smiles. Sophia's heart beat a little faster at each clinic visit. The word blind hovered like a shadow they refused to say. Could they be wrong? Maybe a fluke? Maybe a test missed something? Then Evelyn arrived. Evelyn was the new maid, not polished, not rehearsed. She walked into the house with steady shoes and hands that had worked hard for years. Her bag had a dent, a faded photograph tucked inside. She smelled of bread and street rain. Robert hired her for practical reasons: efficiency, discretion. He did not expect her to notice the small things. On her first night, Evelyn went into Michael's room to fold a tiny sweater. She paused and watched the baby breathe. She hummed a tune under her breath. Michael's fingers twitched. Evelyn smiled softly and began to speak. "Hi, little one," she whispered. "Can you hear me?" She asked not like a doctor, not like a worried parent. She asked like someone who had known silence and had learned to listen anyway. Evelyn sat on the edge of the crib. She began to move, slowly, tapping the wooden rail in a rhythm, clapping softly, then patting the mattress. She made small household noises, a spoon against a bowl, the rustle of paper. The sounds were ordinary. The reaction was not. Michael turned his head. For the first time since birth, his eyes tracked a sound. Evelyn stiffened. Sophia, across the room, felt a sudden squeeze in her chest. She moved closer without making a sound. Robert watched, palms sweating. Evelyn continued. She sang a line in a language none of them recognized. She spoke with her hands, not just her voice, tracing shapes in the air. Michael's fingers reached. He grasped the air like it was the most precious thing. "Did you see that?" Sophia whispered, voice brittle. The question hung in the nursery like a fragile glass bell. Evelyn didn't answer immediately. She closed her eyes. She listened to the quiet in a way the house had forgotten how to. Then she said, "He hears, but he does not see. Not yet." The words were soft. They landed like a pebble in a still pond. Robert's face tightened. The doctors had said something else. How could she be sure? Evelyn explained, simply, without medical jargon, that sometimes, when a baby's visual world is blocked early, other senses either shut down or become confused. She said there were stories she had heard long ago, of children whose sight returned when someone taught their other senses to trust. "Can we help him?" Sophia asked. Her voice broke open. "Can we make him see?" Evelyn's eyes held a slow, honest light. "We can try," she said. "But we must listen. And wait. And be patient." A pause followed. The silence in the nursery felt different now. Not empty. Not resigned. It hummed with possibility. Outside the window, the city lights blurred into halos. Inside, hands reached across the crib, not to take, but to teach. Robert looked as though his world might tilt. Sophia held Michael a little closer. Evelyn sat, folded the sweater, and began to plan in her head the small things she would do tomorrow. At the doorway, a shadow lengthened. A visitor was coming in the morning. Someone who knew more than kindness or wealth. Someone whose arrival would flip open a locked drawer. But for now, they listened. They waited. They moved like cautious fishermen, casting lines into unknown water. Will their efforts pull something miraculous from the hush? Or will the hush remain? The question hangs. Who will knock at their door tomorrow, and which secret will that visitor carry? Michael's world was a soft, unlit room. For him, textures spoke louder than faces. Silk and cotton and the scratch of a tag knew him better than names. Evelyn understood this without schooling. She began with what she had: rhythm, scent, and touch. Each morning she carried a basket. Inside, a bell, dried lavender, a wooden ring, and a small mirror wrapped in cloth. The mirror was not for sight, she told herself. It was for reflection, to coax movement, to teach Michael that things could be more than silence. "Good morning, Michael," she sang on day one, voice low and steady. The house was big. Her words were small. She began tapping the bell in a slow pattern. Ding, pause, ding ding. Michael listened. His chest rose. His head turned. "Again," Evelyn urged softly. She had a way with questions. "Do you like that sound?" She'd ask him, not expecting an answer. Sometimes she would ask, "What does the bell feel like?" as if he could reply. The questions were teaching tools. They were invitations to pay attention. Sophia watched these lessons like someone watching a fragile plant. She learned to read the tiny changes, a tightened hand, a softer exhale, a small smile that lit up the curve of Michael's mouth. Robert observed too, though he kept his hands in his pockets and his face still. He bought gadgets and sensors, modern solutions for an ancient problem. He scheduled specialists. He asked Evelyn once, in a clipped voice, "Do you think this will work?" Evelyn answered honestly. "I don't know," she said. "But being present helps." They did what they could. They dimmed the lights in the nursery so shadows became softer. They filled cloth bags with familiar smells, baked bread, rosemary, lemon peel, and let Michael hold them. Sometimes he would breath in deeply and relax like a child sinking into a warm bed. Other times he would clench his fists and cry until Sophia's arms ached. There were small victories. One afternoon, Evelyn tied a bell to a mobile and spun it gently. Michael raised his hand and reached. His fingers grazed the bell and it sang. His face changed, not with sight, but with recognition. He began to expect sounds. He began to anticipate. The man steps closer. "See," he says smoothly. "She's scared because of you. You dragged her into this mess." Robert clenches his fists. "You don't scare me." "Oh, I don't need to." The man glances at the officers. They do. Before anyone can react, the officers move. One reaches for his cuffs, the other for his radio. "Sir, you and your group are being detained for interfering with a family matter," one announces. "What?" Emma shouts. "You've got to be kidding." Evelyn tries to speak up, but one officer holds out a hand. "Ma'am, step back." Robert's blood boils. He looks at Sophia, her eyes begging for help, but she's too frightened to speak. In that moment, Robert makes a choice. A reckless, dangerous choice. He whispers to John, "Get the bikes ready." John frowns. "Rob, that's crazy." "Maybe," Robert mutters. "But I'm not letting that girl disappear again." The rain pours harder, thunder rolling across the dark sky. As the officers approach, Robert looks one last time at Sophia and says softly, "We're not done. I promise." And before anyone can stop him, engines roar to life. Tires screech. The bikers split in two directions, chaos exploding on the street. Sophia screams as Robert's bike vanishes into the storm. Behind them, the man's voice cuts through the noise like a blade. "Run all you want," he says quietly. "You'll come back. You always do." The rain hides the tears on Sophia's face. Because deep down, she knows he might be right. The night explodes in thunder and chaos. Engines snarl through the wet streets as headlights slice the rain. Tires hiss against the slick asphalt. Robert leads the pack. Emma's bike follows close, her red bandana whipping in the wind. John rides behind them, eyes locked on the mirrors. Somewhere behind, police sirens scream through the storm. And in the middle of it all, Sophia's cry still echoes in Robert's head. "Please don't let him take me." He presses harder on the throttle. He can't let that sound fade. The rain stings his face. Neon lights smear across the puddles like streaks of blood and gold. The city feels alive, like it's watching, waiting. "Rob." Emma's voice crackles through the calm. "We can't outrun cops forever. We need a plan." "I know," Robert shouts over the storm. "John, where's that contact you mentioned? The one who helps kids?" Evelyn's friend, John replies. Retired social worker. Name's Grace Miller. Lives near the docks. About 10 minutes out if we push it. Then we push it. Behind them, 2 squad cars close in, lights flashing like angry eyes. One of the officers on the radio yells, "Pull over now." Robert grits his teeth. Not tonight. They turn into a narrow industrial street. The air smells of rust and salt from the ocean nearby. Emma looks back. They're still on us. Then, a flash of light. One of the bikes skids as a police cruiser cuts them off. The tires scream. Robert jerks the handlebars, barely missing the side of a dumpster. "John!" Emma shouts. "I'm fine." John's voice growls back. "Just keep moving." Rain pounds harder, turning the road into rivers. The bikers weave through alleys, their engines roaring like beasts defying the sky. Finally, Robert spots a faint yellow light ahead. A small wooden house perched beside the shipyard. A single porch light glows through the storm. "That's her!" John yells. They pull up, hearts hammering. The engines sputter to silence. Grace Miller opens the door. She's older, silver hair, steady eyes, wrapped in a wool shawl. She takes one look at them, soaked, trembling, desperate, and doesn't ask a single question. "Get inside," she says firmly. "Now." They rush in. The room smells of tea and rain-soaked wood. Robert leans on the counter, catching his breath. There's a little girl. Sophia. She's in danger. Grace doesn't blink. "I know," she says softly. "Evelyn called." John stares. "Then you know what's happening?" Grace nods slowly, her voice almost a whisper. Her father isn't who he says he is. A heavy silence. "What do you mean?" Emma asks. Grace walks to the window, watching the police lights flicker in the distance. "He's not her biological father. He took her after her mother's death. Changed their names. There's a missing child report from another state, months old." Robert feels the blood drain from his face. "So Sophia's kidnapped?" Grace nods. "And if what Evelyn told me is true, that man's been using local cops to keep it quiet." The words hit like a hammer. Emma paces, her boots squeaking. "So what do we do now?" Grace looks back at them. "You bought her time. But you'll need proof. And protection. If he's been paying off officers, you can't go to just any station." Robert clenches his fists. "Then we find proof. We don't stop till she's safe." Grace studies him, the oil-stained jacket, the soaked gloves, the tired eyes. Then she smiles faintly. "You've got fire, son. Good. You'll need it." Outside, thunder rolls like a warning. The storm isn't over. It's only begun. The next morning crawls in under a gray, heavy sky. The storm has passed, but the world feels bruised. Robert and the others sit around Grace's small table. Steam rises from mugs of coffee. The air smells of sea salt and burnt toast. Evelyn bursts through the door, breathless. "I found her," she says. "Sophia's at St. Mary's shelter. The police dropped her there last night." Everyone jumps to their feet. Robert grabs his jacket. "Let's go." But Grace raises a hand. "Careful. If that man's still pulling strings, he'll try to claim her again. We need to be smart." Emma nods. "Then let's bring proof." Grace reaches into an old drawer and pulls out a file. Yellowed papers, photos, reports. Everything I could find on the case of Emily Harper. The little girl who vanished 6 months ago. Same age. Same scar on her wrist. John looks at the photo. It's her. Sophia. Same eyes. Same quiet sadness. Robert's voice is low. "We end this today." They head to St. Mary's shelter. The hall smells of soap and rain. Children's laughter echoes faintly from down the corridor. Sophia sits on a bench, holding a paper cup of cocoa. When she sees them, she freezes, Then her eyes fill with tears. "You came back," she whispers. Robert kneels down. "We promised, didn't we?" But before anyone can breathe relief, the door swings open. Two men walk in, one in a suit, one in a police uniform. And behind them, the man. Sophia's face drains of color. He steps forward, calm and smug. There she is. "My daughter." Grace stands tall. "She's not yours." She holds up the file. "Her name is Emily Harper. And this proves it." The officer frowns. "Let's see that." But Grace doesn't hand it over. She slides it across the table toward the shelter director instead. "Official copies already been sent to Child Services," she says coolly. "You can't make this disappear." The man's smile fades. "You think this will stop me?" Robert steps between him and Sophia. His voice is low. Solid. "No. But I will." For the first time, the man falters. His confidence cracks. The room feels electric, like the air right before lightning strikes. The shelter director picks up the phone. "I'm calling federal authorities," she says firmly. "You need to leave." The man stares at Sophia one last time. Something dark flickers behind his eyes. Then he turns and walks out, silent, defeated, but dangerous still. Sophia rushes into Robert's arms, crying, "Thank you. I thought no one would ever help me." He hugs her tight. "You're safe now, kid. I promise." For a long moment, the only sound is rain against the windows, soft, steady, peaceful at last. Outside, dawn breaks through the clouds. The storm has ended. Emma smiles faintly. "So what now?" Grace looks toward the light. "Now," she says, "we make sure no child ever has to beg for help again." Sophia looks up at Robert, eyes full of something new. Hope. He wipes her tears. "You're free now, Emily." And as they step out into the morning, the streets glisten, washed clean by the rain that once carried fear. Epilogue, optional closing voiceover style for YouTube. Sometimes, heroes don't wear badges. Sometimes, they ride in with roaring engines and hearts that refuse to look away. But tell me, if you saw a child standing alone in the rain, begging for help, would you stop? Or would you ride past? Would you like me to format this story into a YouTube cinematic narration script, with pauses, voice cues, and emotional beats for voiceover timing? It'll make it flow perfectly for video narration.